Hey guys, it's nice to see everyone on the call. I'm presenting from my computer that doesn't have a camera, even though I did promise that everyone would be able to see my face for once. So, I'm not that photogenic, so you're not missing out on very much, right? So thank you, Amar, for the introduction. I think today it's going to be a little bit interesting because we're going to deviate a little bit from what you. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with how IBM presents its stuff, but this is going to be slightly different. This is going to be um, a little bit of a view into some of the more cutting edge stuff that IBM does, but at the same time, it's a little bit on. I got a chat. Yeah, I did actually, Ezra. Um, it's going to be a little bit of a view onto um, uh, a side of IBM that is not that well known. Okay, because I think when I talk to people who are not in the industry, in the tech industry, and say, hey, do you know IBM? Oh, especially amongst the younger crowds, like we get then IBM used to sell laptops, then IBM used to sell like machines, right? So I wanted to take today's opportunity to really talk a little bit about some of the more exciting stuff like artificial intelligence. I believe Ezra has sent out a bit of a Q&A on the signups. So we got a couple of like really interesting questions that came back, and I hope to be able to address it. Hang on a second. Okay. Can you guys still hear me? You're all good? Okay, I got a phone call coming in. Anyway, so without any further ado, right, what we're going to talk about today is a bit of an overview of the IBM Cloud, how artificial intelligence fits into the overall IBM Cloud strategy. One of the reasons why we talk about IBM Cloud first and foremost is because we have services on the IBM Cloud that allow anybody to really start participating. And I'm going to show you how you guys get it done. Start participating and start doing a little bit of data science, a little bit of artificial intelligence by yourselves if you are keen to learn. So this is IBM Cloud. If you can see my slides, we've got a ton of services on IBM Cloud that I would encourage you to go and have a look. I'll give you the demo a little bit later. But today we're going to talk about big data, AI, machine learning, data science, etc. Right? I'm sure you guys have heard the adage: data science is all about it's 80% data prep, and then it's like 10% runtime. And unfortunately, the adage is true. Whenever you see like a finished project, you would actually see the result of hours and hours and hours of work that have gone through cleaning the data, prepping the data, making sure it processes nicely, making sure it's consistent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't want to scare you guys away, but I hope to be able to give you a little bit of that backdoor view, but also because that you guys have asked, really also how AI actually helps businesses in real life. Okay, so my agenda is going to be something like this. First, we'll need to define what AI is. The reason is, a lot of times when I speak to customers and I go like, hey, look, we built AI into this particular project. The immediate reaction is, oh, is it alive? Okay, so obviously like not. AI has a really, really broad definition, which only starts to make sense once you get rid of that shiny veneer and stop thinking about the Terminator, and then bring it all the way down to something that's realistic, like let's say image recognition or text processing or something along those lines. We're also going to share some projects, real life implemented projects, a bit of the overview. They may or may not be relevant to your industry, but I'll hope that you guys can get a view on how it will relate to your companies. I'll also give you a view on what a project looks like behind the scenes. So when you see the press release, again, when you see that the finished product, it really is a result of lots and lots of hard work, as well as ongoing, training of the machine learning models, of the AI models, maintenance, data collection, et cetera, et cetera. And then of course, I'm going to also walk you guys through some of my favorite projects in the public domain. These are global projects. These are projects which you may not know, but IBM has open sourced a lot of the assets from these projects that will allow you, if you like, to work on these things yourselves, with your companies, with the data sets, some code examples, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so some definitions. Now, obviously, artificial intelligence is a super broad term. You say that to somebody, immediately conjures up images of HAL from 2001, The Space Odyssey, the Terminator, et cetera, et cetera. But in real terms, in very real terms, it really describes computer functionality that mimics what is traditionally known to be the domain of human beings, i.e. cognitive functions. For example, that for a very, very long time, computers could not understand what was in a picture. You guys, if you look at image recognition apps today, can recognize faces, can recognize like who it is in a picture. You guys may not realize, but just 5 years ago, that was a really, really difficult proposition. If you can recall, maybe 8 years ago, that was nearly impossible. Facebook didn't really exist. You'd have to like manually tag, pictures, that sort of thing. And today, we take that stuff for granted. We can download an app today. The app can, you can turn that app onto your own face. It can recognize where your eyes are, where your mouth is, where your nose is, the face shape. We have some apps that also put your face into a video, for example, right? I forget, there's this popular app called Face App, I think, right? Those are real life examples of artificial intelligence at play. Okay, so for example, in order to recognize your face, you'll have to, first of all, recognize where the face in the image is. That alone is an algorithm. Okay, so other domains are like speaking, speech recognition, text processing. I'm sure you guys have all watched when IBM participated almost 10 years ago now in the Jeopardy challenge. If you guys haven't seen that, go to YouTube and type IBM Watson Jeopardy. You'll see an IBM machine sort of like playing Jeopardy together with humans. Of course, AI has also been expressed in games like Go, like chess, so on and so forth. Okay, but we've gotten quite a far ways from that today. That means like AI today integrates not just text, images, etc. It can integrate also navigation, for example, autonomous trucks, autonomous drivings. Just a short, I don't know, like 8 years ago, the DARPA challenge happened, and majority of the autonomous vehicles in the DARPA challenge didn't actually make the full challenge. Okay, but today, you have Tesla, you have Uber, etc., debuting autonomous driving technology, which is in part due to the fact that computers have now evolved and it's now more powerful, so on and so forth. Okay, so learning, problem solving, all these domains are traditionally known to be human type domains, which are now increasingly being caught up with with computers. Okay, so for example, reasoning, knowledge, planning, I'm going to show you some examples of projects which actually use that. Natural language processing, perception, move and manipulate objects. Okay, so for example, an arm can pick something up and then put it in a box in the right order, sort, for example. So for myself, I do predominantly natural language processing, and I do, like ML. Okay, so I want to do, more stuff. If I have the time, I usually just like spend my free time learning about new things, which, if you believe this, a short maybe 3-4 years ago, I couldn't even code. So, and I wasn't very technical. So if I can do it, so can all of you. The information is out in the market. It's out on the internet. All you got to do is apply yourself sometime and then learn the stuff. So again, so some example projects. Okay, so IBM routinely publishes press releases. So I featured 2 projects which I personally worked on. So if you guys are interested, we can always talk about the details, the pain we went through the project, how long it took, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the first project which we want to talk about a little bit. Very prominent client. It's a banking client, financial services. Their main problem was they run very large transaction deals, which comprise of anything from 30 to 300 documents. And because of sanction screening, transactional processing requirements, some human being needed to take those documents, read it, take words out from the document, put into a backend system for sanction screening, and then pick out all the words that are related to a transaction and put it into a backend system. Okay, like a mainframe or something. Okay, now they have 2,000 people in India doing exactly that work. And this is the primary reason why we decided to embark on this, joint thing together with IBM. So the system that we put in place automatically classifies the documents, automatically takes out text from the document, automatically like sends the text to sanction screening. And all the user has to do is log onto a web interface and just like click and validate that everything is fine, and then they're done. Okay, this is a very complex process which spans the globe. And the business value here is very simple. They get to reduce the number of people working on the documents, so they can reduce they can redeploy their headcount. Number 2, it saves them a lot of time, which again translates into money. And this is where they've made the business case, and then they've gone on to production. Okay, so this thing is now in the hands of Standard Chartered, and they manage the systems themselves. Okay, so the second project, which is a little bit more close to my heart because I worked on this and I still work on this like in a lot of cases. For Kerry's a food company. They sell, if you have ever drank a Starbucks coffee, you would be drinking something from Kerry ingredients. They supply the caramel, the dairy, the whipped cream, the flavorings to Starbucks globally. And they do the same for McDonald's. I'm pretty sure that they supply part of the ingredient for curry sauce for McDonald's. So curry sauce is my favorite. They don't give it out anymore. It's terrible. We should complain to McDonald's. But these guys do sell the base ingredients. And what they'd like to do, what they wanted to do when we embarked on this project sometime 3 years ago, was they wanted to get ahead of the curve. They wanted to figure out the new things that the market was talking about, and they wanted to predict what could be the next big food trend. So we've managed to come up with a system that generates candidates for ingredients like, I'm sure you guys know, Dalgona coffee, butterfly PT, salted egg yolk kind of thing. We are able to predict things like that somewhere in the region of maybe 6 months ahead of when it hits mainstream. So they generate a lot of like stuff from that. Most of the stuff that the system generates, you would not even have heard of because there's so much information out there. For example, have you heard of black cheese? I'll give you one simple example. So let me just, hey, where's my browser? Give me 1 second. So my browser is here. Let me bring my browser up. So for example, if I were to go, Okay, so this is one of the things it predicted for one of the Asian geographies. So they made this into a product. Now, it doesn't come up with new things. It looks at what people are talking about and it tries to predict how popular it's going to be maybe like 6 to 8 months down the line. That's what it's designed to do. So nothing new, but you'll be surprised the stuff it comes up with. For example, I'm sure you've heard this and you've seen this in some of the shops before. It's colloquially known as Dalgona coffee, but in the United States, it's known as whipped coffee. So this was obviously a really big thing in during the lockdown. People were just kind of making this at home. So looks delicious. I've never personally tried it, but I hope to one day, probably this weekend actually. I saw a shop selling this somewhere downtown, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Okay, so it comes out with a whole bunch of candidates. It ranks the candidates based on probability. And what Carry as a company does, it takes these ideas and it presents them to the client, not in its native form. They will, for example, do something like they will take this idea and maybe make it into, Genmai Cha or something. They will mix it around and come up with new ideas for their customers. So AI in this sense is generating new ideas for new business opportunities. So that's another thing that AI can do. Okay, so of course, if you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask. Now, I have a hard stop at 4 because I have another presentation to go to. However, I believe I can cover a bunch of this in time. So what does a project look like? If you guys are pitching internally to your own stakeholders. So I had a question about, how do you make the business case for AI and stuff like internally, right? You really have to find the correct sponsor and the correct business outcome. So for example, Carry, right? Carry had a business outcome in which they could very easily tie the usage of AI into new business generation, right? So that's new revenue. Standard Chartered was using AI in order to save costs, right? So if you guys want to embark on some kind of artificial intelligence type project, you will need to really convince people who maybe don't have any view on what AI is. So you really have to tie it into, a real project. Okay, so this is an example of what we do for services for our clients. We can generate MVPs, we can ideate, we can do the design thinking, and in the end of the day, what customers will have is usually a minimum viable product, an idea on where to apply AI to their business, very specific, and a roadmap on how to get there. Okay, so it looks something like this. For example, any kind of artificial intelligence projects rely on data sources. Okay, if your data sources are ill-defined, unknown, you don't know the formats, you don't know if it's a picture or a bunch of text, you probably don't stand a chance on succeeding, actually. So the first thing that we look at for any AI projects is the data source. As you know, artificial intelligence is just a branch of data science. The algorithms that we write still are a part of data science. For example, you'd have like logistic regression stuff, backpropagation, neural networks. All these stuff are defined and made out of the base data that you guys will have. Okay, so by the time you see a finished application, it would have gone through, validated the data source. It would have gone through a process called normalization, because if these data sources are all different, you need to put it into a standardization layer, which makes it normal. It means like all the same, so that you can put it into a model, right, which is the center. And we have services on the IBM Cloud that actually do this. So you put it into a model and it comes up with a set of results that can be put into a database that can be fed into an application. So for example, if you just open up your Instagram application, right? How do you think the pictures got there? It's because they would have gone through a series of pre-processing. They would have been put into some kind of database. It would have scaled to multiples of users. They have data centers in every single country. And finally, at the end of the day, it's delivered into an application front end, which you see on your phone, okay? So everything in the world today almost functions in this kind of format. All right. So then, of course, when we talk to companies that want to do stuff at scale, we talk about deployment stuff. Okay, it's my understanding that everyone on the call is not really like a developer or it's not really in that technical space. So I'm going to gloss over this. But having said that, this will resonate pretty much with developers. You write and test the code locally, you push it to a GitHub, and then you kind of like set up your own automated deployment structure. Okay, so this is my favorite part of the presentation. I'm gonna show you a couple of my favorite projects. Okay, so let me see if I can open this. Okay, so this is something that you guys can actually do because we have some. I'm not sure if you guys have drones. So I have a drone at home, and I like image recognition. So we do have something like this, IBM. Okay, so for example, if you're keen, I believe we've given this all away because this was back in 2018, I believe. But we do have, where is it? We do have a, for example, a very simple programming thing, which will teach you how to take a DJI Trello drone, take pictures, and then classify the images. Okay, so then obviously, this is something that you guys might be interested in doing for anyone's free time. Drones these days are used in a lot of different scenarios, like damage recognition. So, for example, they fly around a bridge that traditionally is very difficult to take the to discover, like rust at the edge of the bridge, for example, but a drone can fly up and do that. So pretty much this is the kind of stuff that drones do. So the other project that is more recent would be this. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the Mayflower, but I think it set sail maybe last month, maybe 3 weeks ago or something. So, and this is the culmination of maybe 3 years of work. So what the Mayflower is this is the Mayflower. It is a marine research vessel that is completely autonomous. So it just like sets off and it goes off and does its own thing, but it's powered by IBM. It's machine learning, AI algorithms. So it does navigation, it does it manages the boat, and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so obviously, like if I click onto the technology, it's a whole bunch of stuff. So this is something that's really cool. I recommend that you guys go read it yourself. Now, this is obviously a research thing. So if you guys are in business, obviously this doesn't apply to you. But so like I said, if you guys want to apply AI into your own companies, it would be, it would make a lot of sense if you could tie it to some kind of business outcome. And for most people, it's either like a cost saving or it's a revenue generating thing. So it's nothing like a ship, right? But if you guys, or if anyone here owns a fleet of ships, you would certainly be interested in doing something like this, or at least like exploring something like this, because like if you guys are in fleet management, for example, logistics, you have a whole bunch of like trucks that are delivering stuff, right? Imagine a whole fleet of automated trucks. So for example, AI fleet management. May not be an IBM project, but okay, let's say Volvo. Volvo did something that's pretty interesting, like this. Okay, so you can imagine that Volvo is selling a truck that has AI built into the truck. Oh, and we have some interesting projects here. So autonomous electric bus. So you can imagine that in the future, all buses are autonomous. That means you won't see a bus driver, you just get on the bus, you tap your card, and off you go. And then there'll be cameras monitoring you and so on and so forth. This stuff is a lot closer than you think. So automated, rubbish collection, for example, automated bus schedules, for example. Okay, so it's something that's a bit more relatable to the people to the general public. So the other thing that is interesting will be this. This is the offshoot of, again, like next version of Watson, I would imagine, right? But we call it Project Debater. You need to watch the videos in order to really appreciate how this thing works, because it is the first artificial intelligence system that can not only listen to what you say, but it can debate you on complex topics. So this is obviously a research thing. It's not available in the public domain. We don't sell it as a product. This is simply to further the field of AI and the stuff that's required. So one of the cool things in Project Debater is we do have some stuff which people can then use. So for example, we show you, how it actually does topic understanding, how it constructs arguments, how it organizes content, so on and so forth. But also, I think we provide a data set for you to try it out. So let me see. Okay, that's just a paper. There was a data set which I was exploring just now. What is it? Okay, technology. And let's see this. It's somewhere on this site. I can't remember where it is, but we do. Oh yeah, maybe it's here. Hang on a second. Over here. Research. There you go. So access the data sets right here. So these are all the associated papers, but again, IBM has open sourced a lot of the data that it's used. So you can just browse to this page. And if you're interested in cutting edge AI and machine learning in the NLP and maybe debate space, you can actually look at all the stuff that's here. Okay, so those are my favorite projects. And then let me just, because I think we want to save some time for the guys. So I don't want to hog everything. I'm going to just exit this, and I'm just gonna go to my questions. So for example, I've got questions here. What are the challenges to implement AI and data science for SMEs? So I'm just gonna randomly pick out from a set of 10 questions, okay? So what are the challenges to implement AI and data science? So real life challenge that I've seen with most customers is they don't understand this part. They don't understand this section here. Okay, they don't understand this. They don't understand the data formats. They don't understand, even exactly what the outcome is. So a good AI project will have three things. It will have a good business outcome. You will understand the data that comes in, and you will understand what you expect as an outcome. Okay, so number one, business case. Number two, source data. And number three, what comes up. And then we can figure out what happens in between. Okay, so, and mostly it's probably just unfamiliarity that most customers don't know what's required. Okay, so so I answered stuff like, how to create a total buy-in by the management. How can AI help retailers? It depends what kind of retailer you're from. How do you apply this concept in day-to-day routine? I'm not sure I can answer this question, but if you talk to Siri, that is a form of AI that is used. They use speech recognition, for example. So we've got a question here that says how much will it cost? It varies greatly depending on what you want to do. But again, this is IBM Cloud, and I'm going to close off with something here. Okay, so this is IBM Cloud. So in the catalog in IBM Cloud, we actually have services that are available here that make things very simple to do. So for as an example, in business, a lot of the times people will say, okay, if I could predict the price of X, I could probably make a little bit of money, or I could improve my margins, so on and so forth, right? So this is an example of how we do it. So in this particular service here, that you can browse into this section, we do have some example pieces of code that you can use to start immediately. So for example, you can use machine learning to predict house prices. You can deploy a decision optimization model, or you can use some code to predict equipment failure. This is one example. Okay, predict equipment purchase requirements. So you click on that box, it deploys it for you immediately, and your data scientist can immediately go into the code and then have a look at what is required to build this. We've got some sample data sets, and it teaches you every step of the way how to do it. Okay, so and then of course, this particular tool will give you some nice graphs, et cetera, as well. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know I could do that. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so we use tools like this in data science. We use tools like this to write the algorithm. And finally, when it comes down to running it, this particular tool will give you a job creation option, which will allow you to take the whole thing, bundle it into a runtime, and then run it. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here because probably a little bit too much for this forum, but I'm gonna pause and I'm just gonna answer any questions that anyone might have, and we can move it on to Ambrose. Is that okay? Is that okay, Azra? Are we good for that?
Yep. I think we also have one question in the
Sure, please go ahead.
Panel. Can you view it?
Can I what?
Are you able to view the Q&A?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you read out the question?
Yeah. So I think it's from anonymous attendee, but
sure.
I think he's asking about if you can share a little bit more on the natural language processing projects, and he's also interested to know on the AI capabilities in picking up cultural nuances in language. So for context, I think they do a lot of translating and coding of open-end text. So yeah.
I see. Okay, so that's a really good question. So NLP is traditionally like a really messy area, right? It really depends on what you guys want to do. So for example, I'll give you an example. This is an NLP project. This is an this is an NLP project. This is an NLP project, but they all do very, very different things. So for example, this requires us to read scanned images and extract out clean data from very, very messy data. If you guys ever saw OCR, it's really messy. This requires us to generate and parse and find words that have never been seen before. So that's a different kind of model. There's other things like Project Debater, for example. Project Debater, right? Requires you to do, detect arguments within like free-form text. And then it does also argument generation, which is generate arguments from existing text in an original fashion. So it's any kind of NLP project is usually a combination of a bunch of stuff. So the best way I can answer your question is we've got some services here which you can explore. For NLP, we'll use this service, natural language understanding. And for custom models, we'll use this service. So what a custom model can do, it allows you to train a model based on example text, which will give you relationships, entity extraction. It'll give you word prediction. For example, you want to detect company names in text, but you don't have all the company names. You can generate a machine learning model to help you predict which one is a company name in just free form text. So it really depends on the domain that you're working with and what you guys need to do. But if you're keen, just I guess you can just like ping Ambrose or ping me. My email is josh@sg.ibm.com, and then we can have a conversation and we can see how we can help you in that particular domain. Okay, so this is the model generating thing. Once you train your model, you deploy it into this engine. So this service is just an engine. You pass it text and it comes up with a result. So with whatever you've trained it with. If it's an entity extraction thing, it comes up with extracted entities. If it's a more like a different concept thing that you've trained it with, it comes up with those concept annotations. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. Do we have any other questions? Q&A, let me see the Q&A. Okay, perfect, awesome, great. And do we have any? Okay, great, awesome. Do we have any other questions? Assuming this is, this is on the IBM. Okay, so that's a good question. The question is, assuming this will be on the IBM platform, if so, how much will it cost and who owns the system? So you guys, IBM's really big on not owning your data. So your model, your data. We don't actually use that data for anything. So you custom train your model, you can save the model file, you can own it, and then you can run it. The service is very cost effective. It's very, I don't like the word cheap, because cheap is not a good word, but it's kind of cheap, right? There's always a light tier, but you can see that it's something like 0.003 cents for every item that's extracted. So unless you have things in the millions and millions and millions, like you're not even paying that much. For example, every month if you extract 5 million items from your free form text, you only pay 0.001 cents per item. So it's very easy to get started for free, test your model, so on and so forth. But it's also really easy to start scaling it. A custom model, if you create it on Knowledge Studio, while you can create the models for free, that's pretty that's what you can do. Once you deploy it to the engine, it's about $800 per custom model per month. So obviously, like, you want to create it, test it, make sure you're happy with it, and then start running it. Okay, so then it's this model deployed plus that. So if it's an NLP service, or it's a service that you want to integrate into the application, the results of this that comes out of NLU will be then built into, it will be put into a database that you can then use in that application, or it can be used directly as part of your application, i.e. somebody can say, put in some, text into your application, the text sends it over real time and sends back results real time. Okay. How much data is it to sufficiently train the NLP engine? That's a good question. It depends on what you guys want to train it on. This one probably we should talk in more detail, because it could be anything from 1,000 pages to like maybe even 100 pages, depending on the level of complexity, depending on how much rules you've put into the thing, etc. But best to just give it a shot. Best to just try it out, and then I can show you how to do it in a detailed session. Cool. So Ezra, do you want to? Awesome. Thank you very much for the question. Really appreciate it. Ezra, do you want to hand it over to Ambrose, because I want to make sure that he's got enough time to talk about his stuff?
Hi. Yes. I think we can go ahead with Ambrose. Ambrose,
cool.
Do you want to share your screen?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh.
Oh, wait, hang on. Wait. There's one more question. What are the challenges to implement data and AI and data science for SMEs? That's a good question. Something we came on the onto the main question board, but the same guy is asking. The main challenge is, again, understanding this. This is the main challenge right here. Understanding what you need in terms of source, and understanding what you need in terms of outcome. Unless you can define very clearly what you need here in terms of outcome, this becomes really vague and really challenging. So this is what we encounter the most. People don't understand the formats of the data that are coming in. People don't understand what normalization is. And that makes it very challenging. If you can't address this and you can't address this, you can't do it at scale. It becomes very, very difficult. Okay, so but the first thing is, what kind of outcome do you want? Can we codify it? Can we define it? Then we can look for the data that can get you to what kind of outcome you would like. Awesome, fantastic. All right, over to Mr. Ambrose.
Hi, I think we will call upon Yuan Feng.
Oh, Yuan, okay,
to
great.
share.
Hi.
Yeah.
Great.
Hi,
Yuan.
Josh.
Thank
So
you, Josh.
the audience will have me instead of Ambrose.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Okay, thanks. And hi, everyone. Okay, let me just quickly share my slides. Mine will be shorter than what Josh has shared. Okay, so I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes running through with you a program that we have put together. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Yen Fen, and I'm the IBM Skills Academy Program Leader for Asia Pacific. And in partnership with Skillsfuture, we have actually put together a 6 months training program. It's called I Am Vitalize, and this is part of the SG United Mid-Career Pathway Programs. All right, so in the next 10 minutes, I would like to share with the audience here how we actually design this 6 months training program. And it's meant to train basically the national workforce that could be in a mid-career situation, and they are looking to upskill themselves so that they can go on to the next chapter of their career. All right, so a shout out for if you would like to attend this 6 months program, and also a shout out, right, that we are looking for potential employers that may want to hire, right? They may want to hire once our students have graduated from this program. Okay, so without further ado, let me just take you through my slides. Now, so what is this 6 months training program about, right? So it actually comes in 2 flavors. There is a track A and there's a track B. So track A, which is very relevant to the topics that like Josh has been discussing earlier on, is a track around AI and data science. And track B is on cybersecurity and blockchain. Right, and as you can see, if you look across the 2 tracks, right, that cuts across the page, there are some foundational courses that are highlighted in blue, and after which the students will then actually branch out into the respective specialization, right? And you can see the little black banners at the top that says IBM Skills Academy. So the IBM Skills Academy courses are basically the building blocks for the entire 6 months training program. And the foundation, when we start with the foundation courses, we start with enterprise design thinking, right? And some of you may ask, why design thinking for an IT training program? For the simple reason that when we train students tend to get very excited, right? And they want to apply the technology. And we want to just get them to hold the horses and said, just learn about design thinking and learn about how we should actually design a solution by looking through the lens of the end user, how the end user is actually experiencing the entire solution, right? Because at the end of the day, that is the essence, right? How an end user is experiencing an app and not the functionality and the technicalities of the app, right? So everything should be through the experience that the end user will be encountering with the solution. So that's what design thinking is about. And then students will move on to the cloud computing course, which is very much a foundational course because cloud computing is pervasive these days, right, across all industries. And depending on whether they are in track A or track B, students will then go into the more complex, right, the data science course, the AI course, or in track B, the blockchain and the cybersecurity courses. Okay, Now, let me move on. So I spoke a bit about the IBM Skills Academy courses, and these are the building blocks. So what exactly is the curriculum within an IBM Skills Academy course, right? So there are actually 3 parts to it, and the way we design it is such that students will be able to be equipped and ready for the workforce once they have actually completed the curriculum. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to minimize. Okay, sorry, just bear with me for a while. Okay. All right, so let me just go through the 3 parts, right, that makes up an IBM Skills Academy course, right? So let's take blockchain as an example, right? So in a blockchain course, students will of course go through the lectures so they understand how blockchain comes about, Bitcoin as a history, and till today, how the blockchain technology, the evolution, and why is it applicable to a number of industries, not only in financial services sector, in insurance, for food safety, for environment sustainability, for supply and demand in non-profit organizations. Right now, the application for blockchain, right, it's diverse. And of course, the second part, right, of the second design point of the Skills Academy course is that there will be technical hands-on lab session, right? So what is a technology course if students are not able to experience the technology for themselves? So they need to be hands-on, and they need to be able to experience the technology for themselves. And then on the left-hand side that you see, what is important is also in each of these courses, there will be role-playing scenarios. And these will be based on use cases, right? Based on IBM real customer implementations, so that students can debate, they can discuss, they can brainstorm in smaller groups, right? And using the IBM design thinking framework of how to create a solution, in this case, right, using blockchain, that will be able to address the problem statements that are brought forth by these industry use cases. Okay, so that is the design of the IBM Skills Academy courses. And this is just another example that I want to share. Data science, right, which is very relevant to today's topic. So within the data science course, as one of the specialization courses, students get to appreciate what are some of the data science job roles that will be made possible with a data science discipline and knowledge. And in the bottom half of the page, you can actually see there's actually a case study in the course, right, that teaches students how they can discover hidden social media usage insights. And this is applicable for all marketing professionals, advertising agencies, right? So it will give students an appreciation that actually any profession, they can apply something that they would think is technical like data science, but in fact it's not true. Every company would have a marketing department. Every company or every industry, right, will need marketing. And today, you know, in the new normal, a lot of marketeers are moving away from face-to-face. So there's a lot of digital campaigns, social campaigns. Hence, the use of data science, you know, for social media insights, digital performance insights is becoming more important. Okay, so some of you may ask, right? 6 months program is a long time. It's a long time, especially for adult learners. So how do we design the program such that we are able to sustain, you know, the students' interests, right, and energy in the 6 months program? So it's through milestone digital badges, right? So just like some of us, you know, we do use like, you know, some of us do exercise, whether is it walking, jogging, you know, we have an app, right, that tracks the number of steps or how far do we run. And personally for myself, you know, I get a bit happy when I see all these little badges that I obtain once I have reached a certain milestone, and it keeps me going. So it's the same way, right? It's the same for our 6 months program. We do have badges once the students have completed a certain part of the program. And of course, the orange badges that you see here, they will be given out once students actually pass, right, an exam that is associated with the topic, like cloud computing and data science. And of course, at the end of the 6 months, the grand prize is a joint certification between SkillsFuture and IBM, either a certification in data science and AI or blockchain and cybersecurity. And this may be of interest to the audience here. So with this 6 months training, right, we would like to equip students with the capabilities to do two kinds of job roles, right? So either they could still continue, right, be a business executive, work on the business front, but they will be proficient with the expertise to apply IT in, you know, all the job roles that you see here, right? Whether you are set up, you have your own company, whether you're a marketing professional, like what I mentioned, business operations and supply chain, for example, using blockchain technology, client relationship management, right? Partnering, you know, and augmenting customer experience with a chatbot, or even with a chat, with an AI restaurant host, right? Project managers, the strong project managers are those who are business savvy and yet they can understand and can talk to the IT implementation team, right? And of course, product management. If you work in a bank and you are rolling out maybe an app, you may not be the one that is physically implementing the app, but having the knowledge behind how the technology works would be very beneficial for the job role. And then, of course, on the other side, right, we are also training business savvy IT professionals. Business savvies because the students will be exposed to the use cases that cuts across all industries. And that will give them an appreciation of how they can apply technology in different scenarios across different industries. Okay, and as we develop the 6 months program, we were actually transforming the way we teach and the way we learn. And take an example, right? So I spoke a bit about design thinking. So design thinking is a course whereby, you know, in the previous days, right, we will gather in a room either with white walls or with, you know, standing whiteboards. We write down our ideas on sticky notes, we stick them up, we get into groups, we debate, we discuss, we move each other's sticky notes and all that. But in today, in the new normal, it is not so possible anymore, right? Hence, we are actually using a digital collaboration tool to help us with brainstorming, all right? So this is just an example of how we use it. So we have digital sticky notes, and in addition to sticky notes, the online collaboration tool also allows students to use images, pictures, right, to be able to illustrate what they want to put forth. So on this slide, right, what we have done in getting, you know, the students to warm up, to get to know how to use the app, we actually got them to use digital sticky notes to actually pen down some of the aspirations for the course. What would they like to take out from the course? And then, of course, the instructors as well. We have gotten the instructors to pen down some of the well wishes, right, in encouraging students as they move through the 6 months course. Okay, so you may have a question and ask me, so when is the class starting? So the first cohort of our AI classes, in fact, we roll out 4 classes this week, right? So as of this week, the first AI class has started, and right now the students are looking into the very fundamentals, right? We want them to get warm up. So it's some digital readiness around AI. All right, so we do have the first cohort in the month of September, second cohort for October, November, and it goes on. And each of these classes, like what I mentioned earlier on, would actually last for 6 months. Okay, so that is the end of my sharing. And I hope that the audience here, if you have friends or family members who are interested to enroll in this course, do let us know. And if you are hiring, please contact me. We would appreciate, because we feel that this is a very meaningful project in training and upskilling our workforce. So please let me know if you have hiring opportunities, and you know, you think some of the job roles that I mentioned earlier may be the ones that you are looking for. Okay, so maybe let me just pause and check if there are any questions. Okay, what are the requirements to enroll in the IBM, okay, in this 6 months training course, right? So we are looking at, so you know, there is no hard and fast requirement. but we could look at students maybe who have a diploma, or at least have some simple IT literacy. So as you enroll for the course, and let me see if I can copy and paste the link in the chat group, right? You will need to go through a simple form. And as you go through the simple form, then that is where we can do a simple assessment, as in if this course is suitable for you. So this is the link that you can go to for more details about the course, and if you would like to enroll or if you'd like to know more. Thanks, everyone.